Hey guys, today we're going to try to get Anaconda Python installed on our home computers. This is the same Python distribution that we were using at school. It's a very powerful tool for data analysis and general coding as well. And so I think it would be prudent for us to try and get that installed on our home computers, especially as if we end up needing to do additional distance learning time, it'll be a great time for us to continue along with some of the work we've been doing in Python. So we're going to attempt to get that installed today. It should be a little bit easier than installing Inventor because there is no need to log into anything or get licenses or whatever. Anaconda is fully free to use for everyone and is based on open source packages, so you don't really have to deal with a lot of that futzing about that we did with Inventor. We'll revisit that as well and see if we can get that installed on everyone's systems as well. The key thing is there will be a link in the assignment. It's very simple, just anaconda.com/distribution/hashtag download section. But there'll be a link in the description for you. And you can choose what operating system you use. I use Windows, so I'm going to use the Windows distribution. But if you use Mac, you can click on this, and there's Mac options. There's even Linux options. But like I said, I use Windows, so I'm going to take the Windows option. And we want the Python 3 version. There's two different versions here, Python 3.7 and 2.7. We want the Python 3.7 version. If somehow magically they come out with the next version tomorrow, it'll be Python 3.8. But either way, you want the 3 version. 3.7 or 3.8 is totally fine, not Python 2, Python 3. So taking the Python 3 version, you're going to click on download, and then it's going to download it to your downloads folder. So you can just go ahead and hit save, and it'll start taking a while. Now it is about 500 megs or so it will take a little while to download, but it doesn't require any internet use once you have it on your computer, so it should be fine once you've done that. Now I already have this downloaded in my downloads folder, so let me see if I can go to it. So I'm going to hop into my downloads folder, and I'm going to go ahead and run the executable to install it. And so it's going to bring up my little icon here. I'm going to hit next. My EULA, which everyone 100% reads all the time. Just make sure you go through that and then agree. You can install for just you. Really, when you're installing this, you can just go with all of the defaults for everything. You don't need to change anything as you go. So you hit next, and then it's going to ask you where you want to install it. It's giving me an error because I already have this installed. If I just let's make it Anaconda 32. It'll ask you to some advanced options. Just ignore those. Just leave them alone and just click on install, and it'll start installing. I'm going to cancel at this point because I don't need two versions of this on my computer. But it'll install, and then once it's done, you'll be off to the races. So that said, once you have it installed, you'll need to run it. Now, this installs both Python itself, which is the actual programming language, and it installs some stuff to understand Python code. But the thing that we've been using to deal with our code is called an IDE, an Integrated Development Environment. And that's basically just a fancy word for a GUI or an interface to let you code more easily and see how your code is working. And that interface is called Spyder. So SPYDER. So that's why we always hit Windows key and type SPYDER, which is what you can do here. And that'll be our GUI, our graphical user interface, our IDE, that lets us actually interact with our code. So it's going to take a moment to fire up. And then once it fires up, it'll look something like this. I have some new projects in here, so what you'll see is more something like this. I have these three windows. They're all blank and white, and they're just like not a lot going on here. So first things first, we're going to configure our windows a little bit so they're a little more useful for us. For one thing, this top right window is completely useless, so we're going to end up getting rid of that. And then we're also going to look at how to change our color schemes. So first things first, you can go to View, and then Window Layouts, and then go ahead and go to Horizontal Split. And that'll basically give you just these two windows, just this left window and this right window. This left window is basically just a text file. It's like opening up Notepad, and you type in code here, and then if you click on this button here, what it's going to do is read all your code. Let's make this test.py. It'll read all your code and try and run it. Now this is bad code here. It runs it, and the results end up over on the right. If I did a very simple program, which is the print function, and then a string, hello world. Now I could run this code, and and here's this telling me it ran that file again, and it prints out to the screen, hello world. If I made a second print statement here, um, sorry, my computer is being silly. All right, print goodbye, cruel world. And then I can click on this green button, or I can hit F5. The shortcut for this is F5. It'll run that and it'll print both of these out. So now I've made a really simple program. So again, this is the text where you edit your program and you run it by hitting this green button. And then over here is where you can actually interact with your program and play around with more stuff. So we'll talk about that in more depth. The last thing I want to do is change my color scheme a bit because I hate this bright white color scheme. This is completely optional, but you can go to Tools, Preferences, and then go down to Syntax Coloring. And then in here, there's a bunch of different options. You can choose to have your comments turn out pink. You can choose an Emacs style. If you do a lot of coding, Emacs is another text editor. There's all sorts of different options here that you can play around with. I happen to like Monokai, but you guys do you and find one that works well for you. If you really want, you can hit edit and change all the colors to your heart's desire. But that's most likely not super necessary, but feel free to do so. So then you hit OK, and then it'll take a moment to think, and then boom, now I have something that for me looks a little bit better. And you can see based on actual code, it's just a little different way of visualizing it. So that's the idea for today. Just try and get that installed. There'll be a similar Google form up to just let me know if it worked or not and what issues you had. And hopefully we will all be able to get off to the races and kind of refresh our memory as to how to do a little bit of programming and how to do some interesting stuff with that. So for instance, one of my projects over the last couple days has been writing a simple simulator to estimate how quickly diseases spread, apropos of nothing. And so there'll be other kinds of projects like that that we can get into as we go forward. So I hope you guys are having a good distance learning week, and I hope that this goes smoothly, and I will talk to you tomorrow.